matter what they were scared of at the time. I didn't go anywhere, though. My mom and dad never really had anything you could call religion. Johnny Depp went to a Hollywood event last week and no one knew who he was. For 20 years he played Jack Sparrow, but he looked very different now. He had lost almost half of his body weight, going from 230 pounds to 130. And it's not because they eat well or work out. Some people in Hollywood are talking about what really happened during those months. Some say it kept him alive. Some people worry that it's killing him. The truth about how he changed is much worse than what people say. His birthday is June 9, 1963, and he was born in Owensboro, Kentucky. He was the fourth child and the youngest. The man who raised him was named John Christopher Depp. Betty Sue Palmer, his mother, used to work as a cook but now runs the household. The family moved around a lot. They always lived in different places, and Johnny never felt like he was put down. It was hard for Johnny to grow up. His mom had a bad temper. She would throw things at him and his brothers without telling them first. Johnny learned to hide and get ready for her every time she walked into a room. She was nice sometimes, but most days were stressful. Even though Johnny's dad was shy and kind, he couldn't keep his kids safe from Betty Sue's anger. The worry got worse because they were always moving. After the fact, Johnny said they moved about 40 times before he turned 15. They moved to Miramar, Florida, when he was 7 years old. For almost a year, Johnny felt more alone than ever while staying with his family in a hotel. Music became his safe place. Johnny's mom gave him a guitar when he was 12 years old, and he played it for hours, using music to forget about his problems. Johnny smoked, drank, and did drugs by the age of 12. Also, school was a terrible place to be. He was picked on by other kids because he was weird. Things were always tense at home. Johnny began to hurt himself and took his mom's anxiety pills to calm down. His drug use got worse over time. In order to dull the pain and loneliness that followed him around, he did this. Johnny's parents finally split up when he was 15. He was broken by the split. It got very sad for his mother, and he had to go to his dad's job every week to get child support checks. It made me feel bad. He had to take care of his mom and brothers too. He was so lost that not even school could help him. When he was 16, he made the choice to quit Miramar High School and follow his dream of becoming a singer. After 2 weeks, he tried to come back, but the headmaster told him to follow his dream instead. Johnny only needed to hear that. He joined a band called The Kids and started to play. They didn't have much money and often slept in a friend's 1967 Chevy Impala. They did every show they could get, even opening for big bands like Talking Heads, the B-52s, and Iggy Pop. They were always broke, even though the shows were fun. Johnny and the band did everything they could to keep going. To make extra money, Johnny modeled for magazines in the area. Johnny and the band left Florida for Los Angeles in December 1983. They changed their name to Six Gun Method and tried to get a record deal. It was even worse there. The guys in the band lived in small flats and slept on the floors. To make money, Johnny sold ballpoint pens. They never got a record deal because the music business was tough. Johnny got married to Lori and Allison that same year. She was a makeup artist and the bassist's sister. Lori was there for him through everything. They didn't have much money, but she knew people who could change his life forever. Nicolas Cage was already well known from movies like Valley Girl and Fast Times at Ridgemont High when Depp met him through Lori. Cage and Depp became friends right away. They hung out at Cage's place and talked about movies and played Monopoly. Cage asked Depp one day, "Why don't you try acting?" Depp laughed about it. He said, "I can't do anything." But Cage kept pushing him. Cage answered, "Maybe you are one and don't know it." That simple suggestion was the spark that changed everything. Depp's rep, Eileen Feldman, sent him to his first audition after Cage set him up with her. Depp never thought about making acting his job. Several decades later, Depp said in court, "I didn't want to be an actor. They were going to pay me $1,284 a week even though I was an artist. That much money? I've never seen it before." Because Lori knew Cage and Cage believed in Depp, he ended up sitting down with Wes Craven to read for a while. Glenn Lance from A Nightmare on Elm Street played that part. Depp only went to the test to cheer on a friend who was trying out for the part. Depp had never played a part before. It wasn't at first that Craven was interested. He didn't think Depp looked like an actress. But when Craven's teenage daughter saw the headshot of Depp, she told her dad that he looked great and was just what they needed for Glenn. Craven gave Depp the part even though it was risky. It paid $1,284 a week, which was more than Depp had ever made before. It was his first movie. Only $1.8 million was set aside for it. But in the end, it made more than $57 million around the world and became a great horror movie. People talked a lot about Depp's death scene as Glenn, who was sucked into his bed and then blew up in a cloud of blood. It was a very shocking death and a very hard scene to film in the history of horror movies. The crew built a rotating set that made it look like blood was spraying from the floor to the roof so they could shoot it. The set got 500 gallons of fake blood. Sparks flew when it hit the lights. Things went crazy in the room. It was risky, messy, and something I will never forget. Depp's success was changed by that one scene. People really liked it, and all of a sudden, Hollywood paid attention. Things were more difficult in his personal life. Even though Depp and Laurie and Allison got married in December 1983, they were no longer together by 1985. Laurie always stood by him, even after they broke up after only 2 years. She put him in touch with Nicolas Cage and set up his first tryout. Depp always said that she was the reason he got his start in show business. Depp wasn't sure if playing was for him even after Elm Street. He kept playing the guitar and hoped to become famous as a musician. In order to pay the rent, he played small parts in movies like Private Resort and Platoon. He became a teen hero when he was cast as Tom Hansen on 21. On Jump Street in 1987. He went from being unknown to a star overnight because of that part. But it wasn't easy to get there. The part was first given to Jeff Jagger by the producers. They were not happy with the pilot, though, after filming it. They had to find someone who could make people believe in the figure. Depp wasn't their first choice, and he wasn't even sure he wanted to be on TV. He wouldn't even read the script at first. He was afraid of being stuck in a long-term TV deal. But they were able to get him to do the pilot, and as soon as the cameras started rolling, he was electric. Teenagers really liked the idea of fake cops going into high schools, which was shown on the show. Fox's first big hit, 21 Jump Street, happened almost overnight, and Depp's face was all over the place. A lot of people watched every week. He was on the pages of a lot of magazines. A huge number of letters from fans came in. It was a crazy kind of fame that came on quickly. Behind the scenes, though, Depp was worn out. The timeline was very tight. He was worn out from working 15-hour days. People thought they knew him as Hansen, the grave and moody police officer. But Depp didn't know himself at all. Felt like I was locked up in my part. Depp was unhappy by the time he had shot 102 episodes over 4 seasons. People always paid attention and had high hopes for them. The people who made him did PSAs telling kids to stay in school. Since Depp had dropped out of school himself, he thought this was a load of BS. One small way he pushed back was by refusing to take part. Depp was getting more and more let down by what the show was really saying. He thought the idea of police officers working secretly in schools was wrong and almost like spreading false information. Plus, a lot of the stories dealt with tough topics like racism and violence in weak ways that Depp couldn't support. When he turned down episodes that went against his views, he turned down $45,000 per episode, which was a lot of money at the time, because he felt bad about taking part and couldn't. As Depp's anger grew, he began to act out on set. To keep the work from being too boring, he would make up lines or crazy stories. His domestic life also got worse when he wasn't acting. After his breakup with actress Sherilyn Fenn, he felt even more stuck than before. By the end of his deal, he spoke his mind. The Los Angeles Times asked him about his plans, and he said he would never do TV shows again. "Never," he replied. "I'd rather put gas in. LA does not have enough money." That's what Depp said about himself. That role was something he no longer wanted to play, even though the show had made him popular. He was so set on leaving that he smashed up his trailer in the hopes that Fox would fire him. But they had to have him too badly. At the end of the 4th season, Depp was finally let go after Tim Burton gave him the lead role in Edward Scissorhands. It was brave of him to quit. People still loved the show a lot, and his face was what made it so appealing. Though it was risky, Depp thought that leaving that kind of fame behind was the only way to save himself. It was the right thing to do. He worked with famous directors like Tim Burton and John Waters almost right away, showing that he was more than just a teen star. On the other hand, 21 Jump Street went on for a 5th season without him, but it didn't last. Ratings went down. Soon after, the show was canceled, which proved what everyone already knew. It wasn't the same without Johnny Depp. Edward Scissorhands was more than just a movie when it came out on December 14, 1990. It was the beginning of one of the most famous acting teams in Hollywood. When Batman came out in 1989, Tim Burton was at the top of his game. But this new movie wasn't like the others. It was strange, about people, and from the heart. Depp, who was best known for his role in the TV show 21 Jump Street, and Burton hit it off right away. Burton would later say that Depp was like him in that he had felt like an outsider as a child. It got old for Depp to play a teen hero. He was thrilled to get the part of Edward Scissorhands. And Edward had scissors for hands. He was kind and shy. Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, and even Michael Jackson were in the running for the part, but Depp got it. Depp said the writing was lovely. The person was beautiful. It was me, Edward. He felt very strongly about what the story meant to him. Burton wrote Edward Scissorhands to be a scary fairy tale. The story was based on his own childhood in the suburbs of Burbank. The scary music was made by Danny Elfman, and the story was written by Caroline Thompson. It took $20 million to make the movie, but it made more than $4 million afterward. It was up for an Oscar and a Saturn Award and won a BAFTA for Best Production Design. When Depp was nominated for his first Golden Globe, people started to take him seriously as a performer. Everything changed because of the part. Depp was still scared while they were filming. He was scared because he thought he might be fired at any time. Depp thought Burton was having trouble because he would practice with everyone but him. Every move was awkward because Edward's hands were so heavy like knife blades. He also didn't say much, so Depp had to draw and talk to tell the story. Depp was full of self-doubt. His later words, "I actually doubted my own abilities," were honest. That being said, Edward Scissorhands showed that he was more than just a pretty face.